Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent. I'm the host for the show, and today I have Patrick Stewart joining me. I had you going.
Is that a comment on my bald head?
Actually, Patrick Hébert. Just joking with you, Patrick. I was always love to joke around with you, and Sir Patrick.
But you're still number one.
You are still number one.
We're still going to call you number one. Make it so number one.
And the reason why people say what, I go, well, because it's like we can connect by Star Trek, right?
Yeah,
It's the great Patrick here, and Patrick, it's always a pleasure joining up with you on my shows, and we always have great times chatting. And so, well, let's just dive right in. So, Patrick, tell me, how are you doing? How is your vision? Any updates? What's happening on your end with you?
Well, actually, thankfully, my vision has improved since the last time we talked. It was looking doubtful, but I had a lot of debris floating in the vitreous fluid, the aqueous humor they call it, in the eye. A lot of blood from a hemorrhage that happened, and it was getting progressively worse. At one point, it was 20/300 was my vision.
Oh wow!
So I was beyond legally blind at that point, and that lasted for a couple of months, at least 6 months, and then, for whatever reason, I actually went to St. Mike, Sunnybrook Hospital to talk to an expert doctor, an ocular surgeon, and they said, well, we'll watch and see, and my vision had improved to about 20/200 at that point, and so we waited, and within about a month and a half, I was down to 20/50. So, it's it's cleared up. It's not good enough to drive yet, I'm hoping, but there are some weird things that have happened. Like, I am now colorblind, and I wasn't before, and that's apparently a result of the laser treatment that I was receiving to stop the bleeding in the eye. And apparently can happen to some people. Like, the doctor jolted me with a bunch of, like, hundreds of shots of laser in the eye, and the idea is to burn off the blood demand around the peripheral of the central vision. So they did that, and for whatever reason, I can't tell the difference between dark blue and dark green, and like there's.
I was gonna say to clarify for the audience, the color blindness refers to basically just the red and the green distinction, right? Usually.
Well, yeah, but acquired color blindness is different from the kind that you're born with. And people that experience sight loss can oftentimes, that's part of it. Not for everybody, but not everybody's born with disability. I think that's important for people to realize too. Like, it's not like you're shit out of luck when you're born a certain way. Yeah. Sometimes stuff happens in life, and there's accidents. And,
I mean, you can develop a disability at any point in time in your life. I mean, multiple disabilities. And hearing that your prognosis is how it's going from the last time that I spoke with you, Patrick, exactly what you mentioned. it was looking, it was looking pretty gray, right?
Yeah,
On the
I was
vision side,
supposed.
now it's gone the other way.
Well, I'm still blind in one side. I have no vision in my right eye.
Yeah,
I was born that way, but my left eye is functional now. Like,
that's
I
good.
can navigate myself. I can actually do basic cooking. Um, Nothing like I used to do, but it's better than it was. So,
Yeah,
it's improving. Um,
independence is so important.
yeah, yeah, little steps, right?
Yeah, some people call baby steps.
Yeah. Well, sometimes an inch feels like a mile when you're crawling, right? Like,
Yeah.
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 Well, you just take each day at a time, and that's what you do. And having these supports around you, the services that will help you with coping with your vision. And that kind of that stems into things that I've gone through recently.
Well, I just wanted to stop there for just a second,
Yeah.
Brent, because I think Patrick made a good point about that not everybody is born with a disability. I mean, there's acquired disabilities and there's ones that are born with. And I just wanted to make the point that I think sometimes it's easier to be born with a disability. Like I was born with my cerebral palsy, and in some ways that's easier. Like, I remember being a kid and people, especially like 45. I'm 55 years old now, so like I'm going back say 50 or 45 years ago. You get people all coming up to you in the mall or whatever and saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry about your disability," and I'd be like, "Well, don't feel sorry for me because I'm used to it, right? I mean, I had it my whole life, and in a way, I mean that's true. Like, you don't know what you're missing if you've never missed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've never had perfectly functioning legs, so like. What am I to complain about? I don't know anything different, right? Whereas somebody that's had their vision or perfectly functioning legs or whatever their whole life, and then suddenly it's acquired, all of a sudden you're scrambling because now you have to reinvent yourself. You have to scramble for things because you don't have that 20 years of experience of like being born with it, and then like all of a sudden you're thrown to the wolves, right? It's a very different. It's a very different experience than somebody that's been born with something. It's like you don't have time to adjust. Like for me, I had my whole life to adjust to it, and but for somebody with an acquired disability, it's like, oh crap, all of a sudden you're having to change your whole life and like almost be thrown to the wolves a lot faster, and I have to adjust to things a lot faster. So,
well, and you make a good point. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, I just for hearing what you're saying, I think we're in for a tsunami of age-related disability that's coming with the baby boomers aging, to retirement home age, and we're going to see suddenly disability matters a lot more to the voting population because it affects them and not somebody else, right? Like as soon as it's their problem, it's everybody's problem, as typical with baby boomers. But anyways.
Well, absolutely. And going back exactly what you mentioned, it'll affect a lot of the broad range of the population as people age, right? You're going to get more disabilities, and people vote, right? Yep. So and that really, people say, oh, well, they're disabled. They don't vote. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe, their family, their caregivers, their friends, they all get disabilities. Hey, all of a sudden, well, what happened here? The main population now makes change. So going back to exactly what you mentioned too, Neil, is being born with a disability. Like a person doesn't know anything different, right? I mean, someone would say, well, Brent, wouldn't it be nice to just go and buy a car and get a license and go and drive? I don't know what that's like. Like, I don't know. To me, that's nothing different. And someone said, well, why don't we just go give you laser eye surgery? Well, I'm sorry, with your eye condition, I've talked to a doctor about that, and they said, well, unfortunately, it could maybe work, but we don't want to take a chance on it because it could actually, for you, it could actually make the situation worse.
Yep.
And so yeah, they decided not to do that. I had a doctor who told me that it needs to be done. And I said no. See you later, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that goes to what I've gone through recently. Patrick, I had gone through a situation. It was a nightmare, and I did some breaking with Brent segments. I'm not sure if you saw them, but it was more about Specsavers love. It wasn't love. It was torture.
Specsavers hate.
And this nothing nothing against Specsavers if they actually saw this, but once you got it wrong, twice you got it wrong, 3 times strike, right? It's 3 times. Was it 3 times?
Three times a lady.
So Specsavers, is that a glasses retailer?
It is.
Online retailer?
They used to be called Image Optometry, but Specsavers bought them out, and it's just been a horror story. I didn't ask.
And they're coming to a mall that's very close geographically to Patrick and myself. Just to be aware.
I heard about that, and I wonder who's going to be launching it, and that will be another discussion we'll have later in the show.
Connect Peso has an interesting question already, and I'm not really even sure what he's meaning. Maybe he can explain it. But the question is, can you speak to medical discrimination? It seems to be very apparent now more than ever. And I'm not quite sure exactly what he means. I kind of get what he means, but not really. So
medical discrimination.
Discrimination.
Now maybe I don't know.
Or maybe an idea is, Patrick, because you have shared that you went through a thing recently, right, with your vision sharply declining without any warning. Yeah. How was your experience receiving, help when, all of a sudden, it struck you that, your vision was declining?
Well, your first step is you think of the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, right? CNIB. They're the ones who are supposed to be helping with vision loss. And you know what? In my region, you got to wait 6 weeks from the time you're referred by your eye doctor to hear from them. And then they decide where to send you. Like, there's different divisions of CNIB. They've broken it up into like 3 different organizations. There's the main charity that you see advertised on TV with the guide dogs and stuff.
Right.
And then there's, the service organization, which helps with like employment, but they don't really help you find a job. They help you with skills to find a job, and it's up to you to find a job. It's kind of not very helpful. But the most helpful part of the organization is something that's arm's length to them now. It's like different pocket, but same thing. It's Vision Loss Rehabilitation Ontario.
That's right.
And they help a lot, with like adjusting to technology and getting around how to adjust to your new reality. Like, they were teaching me how to walk with a long cane before my vision improved. So, they are very, very helpful, but it takes at least 6 to 12 weeks before you get any help. And that's a long time to literally be in the dark or,
Oh, for sure.
Did you feel heard when you approached your doctors, Patrick?
My doctors were excellent. But I've been seeing eye doctors all my life. Since I was born with a condition called microphthalmia, where my eye didn't grow properly. Like it's not a fully formed eye. So I wear a shell over it, just to give the appearance and to keep my skull from deforming. It's quite the thing for prosthetic. So I've been seen by doctors all my life, like eye doctors. So when the vision declined, they were very quick and responsive that way, but it was the service organization that wasn't so great.
Yeah, and I guess that's where the discrimination comes in from maybe the person's comment, like about medical discrimination. It's felt that, I guess maybe you felt that the support should have been there a lot more prompt than what they were.
Well, actually, I feel that if you're born with a vision problem, or you acquire one in childhood, you should really be taught how to compensate from an early age. And, like, I don't know, and not everybody's going to go blind, but if you're born with one eye, it would make a lot of sense to be taught how to navigate as a person without sight, because you're 50% more likely to lose both eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you got two eyes, you got a chance of losing one or both, but if you have one, you got a higher chance of losing.
And that's
everything.
where being having been born with something, at least, like I said, you have time to ramp up. You have time on your side a little bit. Whereas if you just acquire something like tomorrow or next week or whatever, it's like, wow, all of a sudden you have to like ramp right up to speed, right? You don't have that benefit of like, of time on your side kind of thing. What are the clarifying comment from Connect Pipe Pesa was lots of doctors in Ontario do not want to deal with the disabled. That's his clarifying comment.
That's
well, and speaking about like the region that we reside in, right? There may be some privilege in that we have quicker access to some of the medical things. Like going to Toronto to see a specialist is slightly easier when you already live in the Toronto area.
Absolutely.
Right? And so some of those discrimination things are not experienced in quite the same way.
Well, and I lived for a while in southwestern Ontario, and everything was driving distance. It was hours from London, which was the closest major center, and no bus service. So if you need to get somewhere, you need to know somebody to do that if you don't have a vehicle. And I was fortunate enough to be driving at that point. But there's lots of parts of the country where there's no public, no public transit, and that's just a reality. And so talking about buses is great if you live in an area that you can have one, but not everybody does. There's a lot of people who don't. So
having the accessible transit, around to be part of like being mobile, right? It's like part of who the person is. It's like a tool that helps you. It's who you are, right? It's like Neil having his mobility scooter. It's who he is. It's an extension on who he is, and having transit. It's like having that is part of who what you need. And if you don't have it,
and if you don't have transit, then you have to depend on Ubers, and if you're on social assistance, who has the money to spend a bunch of money on Uber?
Well,
and who has who can afford to live in the Toronto area? Right. And not everyone wants to be living in the Toronto area. Let's be fair. This is like the bottom 8% of the province. There's a whole whack of population that doesn't have the same access.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's so important to have the resources around you of the transit, shopping, everything that you can get to without too much of a hassle, where you can just jump on the transit and get there. Or if it's within a walking distance, if a person is able to get there in a scooter, or if you're partially sighted or you're fully blind, having the cane, but being taught how to use that cane, like you were taught how to use that, how to navigate around to get from point A to point B or point C.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so mobility is so important, and I think there's so much policy stuff that needs to be changed across the country when it comes to that. Like listening to people with disabilities, on working with the policymakers, working with them on how do we develop better accessible transit? How do we make things more accessible for housing, ramps, you name it, getting businesses? It's so important. And listening to the lived experience. The person who lives that every day, their lives. I mean, what they go through, and it's and having you explaining about this, Patrick, it's so important what you're going through.
I think the commenter about medical discrimination, you know, I'm thinking more about it. I can see it being a problem if you're finding a new doctor. You know, if you're fortunate enough, like I am, to have had the same, I deal with a community health center that is, you know, funded and has lots of doctors, and they're on salary there, so they're not like your typical small town doctor that is paid by the appointment, which, you know, makes them kind of act like an assembly line. They want to get you in, deal with one issue, get you out, and then if you have more than one issue, you got to come back, you know, because they only get paid for one issue at a time. So I can see that being a problem. From my perspective, what's been really difficult is there's no medical quarterback when you have multiple conditions. Like, you know, I'm type 1 diabetic. I have this vision trouble and mood disorder. So, you know, with those three things, the general practitioner, the family doctor, is kind of in charge, but they don't have time to do it. So really, it's up to the patient to manage all their conditions. And there are people that just aren't capable. So, you know, like, I can see medical discrimination being a problem if you're looking for a new doctor, or your doctor retired, you know, you're moving, whatever. It's hard to find a family doctor to begin with. And if you're a complicated, you know, caseload, they may pass over on taking you on. I can see that happening, you know.
And that's another interesting point too, is actually, and I've had experience with this as well, is that if you already have a disability, sometimes doctors can miss underlying conditions because they confuse an underlying condition with an existing disability, saying, well, it's just your existing disability, there's nothing wrong here, nothing to see here.
Yep.
You know, that happened with my previous wife, is that when she had lupus, it was misdiagnosed for 4 years, and they just didn't see it because of her existing disability. They said, well, it's just your disability that's causing the additional swelling and all that, and so they just wrote it off. And you know, so and when that happened, we started realizing, we did some research and realized that all this kind of misdiagnosing was actually happening more. It's more prevalent than we'd like to think.
Absolutely.
And you know, part of it too, with going with what you mentioned, Neil, I find that a lot of doctors they're like you mentioned, like they're so rushed, right? They're like you get to ask one question, like exactly, you know, Patrick, like you mentioned, like one question, right? One question, and it'll get you in, get you out, and they misdiagnosed a lot of things. I remember going and talking to the doctor when I had to go and try to get new glasses. Well, I mean, I wear my glasses, my ones I have now. These are my original I've had for, since 2017. Now, these are, I call them my spare pair, because my original pair, I had transition lenses and I broke them. Someone cut me off right in my own parking lot here, and I did a face plant, slid right across. I smashed it, and they were just mangled right up. And I told a funny story. I just scratched right to hell, just, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the lens popped out. I'll just pop it back in. Where are my glasses? I'm going, yeah, they're here somewhere. I'm laying on the grass. I slid right onto the grass in my front yard. Ooh, okay, face plant. I'll get up. Yeah, brush it off, Brent. Get up. So anyway, long story short on that is, so I'm wearing these ones, and so I go to the doctor because it's time now. I can go and try and get a new prescription. So I go into him and I said, well, yeah, you know, I need a new pair of glasses. Can I just, you know, use this prescription? Nope, got to do a whole brand new prescription. Why? Because that's the law. That's the law. I go, so who makes the law? He goes, well, it's just that way, Brent. I'm sorry. Well, I see fine with these. So I go and get a new prescription, Patrick. And he says, eye doctor says, do you do a lot of screen time? Do you do a lot of typing, like reading stuff online? And I said, I do, but I blow up the font with my fingers, or if the app is stretch the screen, or some fonts I can adjust the font size if I need to. Oh, you shouldn't have to do that. You should just be able to just use your glasses and not have to blow up the font. How close do you need to have it? I go, I need to pull it a little bit closer so I can read the small print. Nope, shouldn't have to do that. So again, my prescription is who I am, right? I know what's best for me. So, and I've been wearing glasses since I was 6 months old, so I know it's good for me, right? And not that I don't want to take advice from my eye physician, eye doctor, but so what he did was he combined reading glasses with distance glasses. So put it all into one prescription. Well, I didn't realize what he was doing, because he says, well, do you need one for reading, one for distance? I go, that would work. Let's just go with my distance for now. I'll use my spare pair I'm wearing right now, and I'll use that for reading. Okay. Oh, okay, sure. So what he went and did was he combined it all into one prescription. Well, I went to go and put them on. I was like, whoa, like, trying to walk with them, and the sidewalk looked like it was curved, like it was curved. In the prescription, I knew something was off, and it had blue light in it. Everywhere I looked was blue light, and reflection. I kept getting reflection. The sun would reflect, and all I kept seeing was blue. So for me, it just didn't work. I sent them back, and as Neil knows, with the Breaking with Brent segments, it was not a hop, skip, and a jump over to go and get them. So I had to go into the Lower Mainland, and now that's a good 5.5 hour trip from here over. So I call it 6 hour trip. So round trip, by the time you go there, deal with them at the store in the mall, and you come back, you're looking at a good 12-hour day.
Wow.
So,
and as much as you love taking the ferry, that's a bit much.
As much as I loved it, because it's a nice voyage, it actually became a real pain and a lot of anxiety for me. There was one case where they said, oh, they hadn't arrived. They had phoned me. I guess they thought they were in, and they was for somebody else. I ended up having to wait, and then it got too late where I couldn't even get back to Rush to catch the last ferry. I ended up having to stay the night. Now it cost to me having to stay at a hotel. Yeah. The good thing was I went over to visit Neil, and we did a segment on there, which was great. But again, it was having to make a special trip just to get glasses. So my moral of the story on that is, it was torture to me. Like it was like a situation where they misled the situation. They messed up. And then they say, what do you want us to do for you? Well, I don't know. You are the manager. You tell me.
The moral of the story is no glass place should have to do something 3 times and still not get it right.
Yeah.
That's
even though Brent has a complex need for glasses,
like
right,
three times,
and especially there was no excuse for it.
I mean,
but
I could see once. I could see once, but two times was a lot. 3 times is just getting stupid.
But here's what the manager says to me. Well, okay, so you can see fine with your current glasses. I go, I see perfectly fine. Just okay, that is really surprising, because looking at this prescription that the eye doctor made for you, like I took a reading on your glasses, and the reading on the new ones, well, I don't have them now, but the ones that they had made based on the prescription, it is way different, way different. I'm surprised you can even see. I go, I can see without my glasses. I can't read nothing, like no small print. I mean, unless I put the page really close to my eyes or something, and then I can squint and try to read it. But the fact is that, with them doing that prescription, it was way off. And I knew something was off, and I thought, wow. And they argued that, okay, so fine, you know what, we'll give you your money back after all that. And I thought, oh, they're going to make me go back, Patrick, all the way back to the store again. Yeah. I went to another store locally in Victoria, and they said, you know what, we're just going to deal with it here. They did an override with their management. They said, we'll take care of it here. And
How couldn't they have done that in the first place? Eh?
Yeah,
exactly. Meanwhile, they told me they couldn't do that. At the same store, they said, well, we can't do that. You have to go back to where you got the prescription. Now, people ask me, they say, well, so what, you had to go all the way up to Langley in the Lower Mainland, you live in Victoria, to go and get a prescription. Why? Well, why would you do that?
Dan says, do you get frequent flyer miles now on the ferry? A discounted rate.
What are their best customers? So here's the answer to the people that have been asking. Why did I go all the way to Victoria? Okay. So let's rewind it here. The beginning started in November of 2022.
October.
It was October? It was, well, when I went actually saw... Well, when I went and saw the eye doctor, it was... Anyway, I went and got the glasses. I got fitted. I got the eye test done in Victoria. And so when I went to this mall in Victoria, they gave me the prescription. I gave my MSP card, right? BC Medical, right, for an eye exam. So I go in, the eye doctor, really friendly, nice chap, you know. And so I sat down and we discussed, and he shows me on the computer screen. Yeah, this is your eyes. I'm like, oh, it's all clear. There's no problem. So knock on wood. Hey, kudos to him. Like, that's great. Hey, I mean, I'm actually happy. Your eye health is 100%, Brent. There's no other problems beyond your disability with your eye condition, right? It's stable. So I thought, okay, good. So I see a lady standing at his door after I did the eye test, and she had a piece of paper in her hand trying to get his attention. I saw that. He kind of ignored it. So anyway, then he realized she needed attention. So we finished the eye exam. Boom, bada bing, bada bum. Get in, get out of here, guy. Yeah. So stand there, and so the lady says, "Okay, so have a seat." I'm like, "Oh, we'll talk about the eye exam and how you felt." Oh, okay. So we went over it. I said it was good. It was good. Yeah, I mean, he's going to get me a pair of reading glasses down the road. It's a separate prescription, and okay. When I'm ready, if I want them, because they had one buy one get one for another pair for free.
Okay.
Okay. So I thought, okay, this is a pretty good deal. I mean, I said, is that going to cost my medical more money? No. Like, we have a deal within the store. Like, that's just the optical part.
This sounds like let's make a deal.
Let's make a deal.
Pick the curtain. Do you want curtain number 1, curtain number 2, or curtain number 3?
Or 2 or 3. Let's pick curtain number 1. Oh, sorry.
You get the donkey.
You pick curtain number 2. Oh, sorry. Wrong answer. Curtain number 3.
Donkey for you.
Number 3. Oh, ding, 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 ding. Oh, what was curtain number 3? Well, Brent, surprise. You have to pay for your eye doctor appointment visit. I go, say what? Yeah, it looks like the insurance company has rejected. It says they didn't go through. It says declined. And she shows me the form. Now, here's the thing, everybody. The lady at the store shows me the form. They're not supposed to, me as a patient, I'm not supposed to see this form. Like, and it says right there, declined. And it said has a code number. The reason why. Well, I don't know what that code number is. Okay, so what do I do? Why is it declined? I've never had my medical coverage declined. It's covered under the provincial government. I'm on provincial disability. It's covered. Well, I don't know what's going on. You need to give them a call. There's a phone number right here, and you need to give them a call. So I called. I didn't know what to do. I mean, this is a first for me. Okay, fine. If she's saying call, so I call up, and the lady says to me, "Okay, what is your RX number?" Okay, well, everybody knows what an RX number. That's a doctor's. That's that's a physician, right? Their RX number. And I said, RX number? Well, I don't know. What is it? I said, I know what RX stands for. I'm just me. Well, who are you then? I'm Brent. Okay, so what is your last name? And I don't mind saying this on the show. Is Brent Frain. Okay, so Mr. Frain, so I don't find you in the system here under, what's your PH number? Like your doctor, your number, your College of Physician, your number. I go, I'm not a doctor. I mean, do you want me to be a doctor? Because I could.
But I play one on TV.
Yeah, maybe I could switch places with the doctor now. Maybe, right? Yeah. I mean, who's the patient here? She goes, okay, I see there's a problem. I'm sorry, I can't talk to you about this. Is patient confidentiality? I go, I am the patient, though. Why are you calling us then? So she says, I'm sorry, you'll have to go back and talk to your eye place that you dealt with. Thank you. Goodbye. So I was not happy. I phoned back. I got a gentleman on the phone. He bent over backwards, Patrick. He bent over backwards. I told him the situation. He put me on hold. He says, do not hang up. I'm going to make a phone call to the place that you went to. I know, I can see the transaction. It was declined 3 times. They attempted 3 times to put through the system. So he phoned up, and then he said, you're going to get a voicemail. Do not answer the phone. What? Do not take the call. It's going to be them calling you back. And they're going to be all nicey. Hey, we worked it out with Pacific Blue Cross because, and wow, what it was. Okay, the moral of the story here on that part is the company, they're all franchise owned. So anyone who thinks, oh, it's just one company, no, they're all individually owned and operated. Okay. What happened was that they didn't have it registered down in their system. The company didn't have it registered down with the insurance company that the government goes through. The government says, here's the funds, and then they just administer the funds, the insurance company. So the Specsavers didn't have their company registered in the insurance company's system so they could bill. It was registered as optical office. Well, their system is all computerized, so their office didn't know. Well, what is this? Of course, it's going to reject it.
Yep.
Now, here's the thing: is that the doctor wasn't registered as a physician in the province of BC. He's registered as an Ontario doctor. He was brought in to launch the store. That's it. And now he went back to Toronto. Now I'm wondering. And
then noting that there is an office that's opening, south of Patrick and north of me.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's the same doctor here. So, but and this wasn't the only store. I think, okay, this is isolated. So I had obviously a bad experience, hey Patrick, like at the store. Now they had to fight for 3 weeks to get my money back. And actually, it wasn't even my money. It was actually Sonia's mother who had lent Sonia the money to lend it to me to basically pay for it. So now technically, I owed her mother, the money back, $99 visit. Well, so now it actually put her in a bad situation, right? We had to wait 3 weeks. Sonia's dad went in. We actually went out to visit over Christmas. Well, actually it was after, but anyway, they had brought us back. Actually, no, sorry, I'm fast forward too far here. It was actually before Christmas. They had a bunch of stuff they needed to drop off to us, and it's like a 2-hour drive. So they brought us back, and her dad goes, you know what, Brent, I'm going to go and pay Specsavers a visit. So he walked in there. He walked in, and he got the ball rolling. So and basically get that money back, no problem. Right?
Was it the knuckle sandwich?
It was. Yeah, he says. He's just like, he says, I was speaking to the manager. He goes, I am the manager. He goes, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. And so anyway, we got the money back. Yeah, we got the money back, and it took time. And and Sonia's having a 3-point-something on 3.9. She's a diabetic, type 1 diabetic to Patrick.
Yeah, so, you better treat that low.
Yeah, you better treat that low. You had some pop. There you go. That'll fix it quick.
Yeah.
So so what happened there is we got the $99 to be refunded back, and so they got that taken care of. So I had a bad experience. So I just didn't want to deal with that store getting my glass prescription done there. I'm thinking, well, they might just mess this up, right?
Yeah.
So Sonia.
They might just mess this up.
Yeah, they just might mess up. Well, that was the beginning. How did I know it was going to be 3 times right? Well, technically that would have been actually 4th. You know what I mean? Because that's how it all started, right? Yeah. So. And Sonia goes, well, I need to get a new pair of glasses. Her mother goes, don't go there. Don't go to that store. So she went to another store in Victoria. They have another store. Another mall. So she went there. And so she went to go and get a pair of glasses. And they said, well, you need to get a prescription. She goes, well, I have one from my another physician that she had got. Well, it just shows a bunch of numbers. Well, that's not a prescription, right? It wasn't She goes, well, that's what my eye test came out as. It was for diabetes that she had to go and get this test done for. And they just get a sheet, like a little letter. It says this is kind of what your, what your eye test is, but it wasn't a prescription. So Specsavers says, don't worry, we'll take care of it for you. We'll go in to give you.
Specsavers said, don't worry.
Yeah, they said, don't worry, Sonia, we'll get this taken care of.
I was worried also.
So she was worried because she says, well, what Brent's gone through at the other place, and I says, oh, really? What did you go through? I go, ma'am, it was a freaking nightmare. I got my prescription right here. I said, but you know what? I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait, and you take care of Sonia. No problem. So we'll book you in. What day's good? Punch on the computer. Okay, yeah, we can get you in here. Is that a good time? Yeah. I go, Sonia goes, what day do you have open mic on, Brent? Don't worry about my open mic. I can work around it. I mean, whatever. I'll let Neil know. We can reschedule it. No problem. Well, we were able to do the open mic that evening anyway. So it worked out fine. I think she had an appointment at 4:45 that day. That day. So she got in there. And they said, we'll get you to see the doctor. Well, what doctor? And I see this guy go by in this office, another office. And so the same doctor. The same doctor.
Wow.
And, yeah, and I cringed as soon as I heard that. Oh, so right away I thought, oh boy. So I took my business out to Langley. So that's how Langley came about. And then Langley said, you know what? We're gonna ship the glasses out to you. The final time after the strike, they said we're gonna ship this out to Victoria, so you don't have to come back here.
No soup for you.
That way. They didn't want to deal with me anymore. They think, hey, you know what? No soup for you, Brent.
No soup for you.
Yeah. Right out to you. And I had already pre-planned this. That okay, they're gonna ship it out. Good. And I'm now gonna throw it right back at them and say, I don't want them. They don't work good for me. Wow.
Dan had an earlier comment, and he might want to clarify that a little bit, because it was to do with a previous comment that Patrick made. I believe it has something to do with things that can be done, maybe specifically for the blindness community. But Daniel says, Patrick, what do you believe is the appropriate approach we should take as a whole towards the lawmakers that can change this and help the community with these issues? And I think he was talking more about the doctor discrimination, or do you think there's anything that lawmakers can do or legislation that can help?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe what Neil, what he mentioned, but maybe like a guideline or something that maybe they could kind of go on, or?
Well, it's patchwork across the country, of course. Like every province does their own thing because, they're allowed to manage their own health care. But for Ontario, what I'd like to see is, it doesn't necessarily have to be a doctor per se. It could be an RN or an RPN or, some kind of nurse or practical nurse, the nurse that's almost a doctor. But if there was somebody that was able to coordinate and manage people with complex medical conditions, it would be very helpful. I mean, they used to put ads on for Shoppers Drug Mart that the pharmacist would catch any drug interactions and alert you, like that's why you should deal with Shoppers and pay like $16 for a prescription or whatever. But, like they used to say that, and now there's really nobody doing oversight. Your pharmacist might, but the doctors don't know what the other doctors are doing. They don't really coordinate each other, and you could be prescribed a bunch of pills that are counteractive, and they're left wondering why you're not improving. That there's nobody coordinating. So I don't think it needs to be complicated, but there should be some kind of office or some kind of telephone support that can manage your complex file.
Well,
And
exactly.
especially in Ontario, right, we're in each health unit area, right? So York
Yep.
region, or say the Niagara region. The Niagara region doesn't have the same resources as the York region or the South Simcoe region has, right?
Yep.
Because in South Simcoe and York region itself, you have organizations like CMHA, YSSN, Craftsman Center, for example, which all work together, and sometimes they end up hooking people up to the right services, right? Whether it's the March of Dimes or CNIB, but this is just in York region, right? Ontario is so much bigger, and there's just gaps unless you live like in Kingston or Ottawa.
Well, here's a thing too, though. It's like you get like certain doctors that are going to prescribe certain things. So if there's a specialist that will say, so I'm going to, I want to take care of this. But then you got a family GP who's going to take care of this, different medications. Now, exactly what you mentioned, Patrick, is that there could be a little conflict. And
they can work against each other.
Just went through that with her pharmacist who printed out her chart. And, and I don't want to get into specifics of what it is, different things, but there was something that was, brought to her attention, who now she talked to a different doctor, her GP, who's now going to have to kind of go over things, but they made it's all automated, so they have it, right? So she could just pick up her phone and make an appointment for him to call her back. That's how bad that is. But it comes down to something that was brought to her attention, that there was a conflict of almost same type of medication, but different name. And saying, well, you're taking two of the same things. Isn't that right, Sonia? You're taking two of the same things. Why are you taking two? She goes, I don't know.
Yeah.
What is the
specialist? What the doctors tell you,
right?
Yeah. I was going to make a comment, and actually, right when I was going to make the comment, Canuck Peso also said something similar online here. I was going to make a comment and say, there really should be some sort of provincial ministry for all provinces, a ministry of disabilities, and there isn't any for any province, because Canuck Peso actually made the comment, why is there no ombudsperson or ombudsman to support folks with disabilities? And
okay, I can comment on that actually if you want.
Sure.
To the people that are putting the comment in about that. So I don't know about other provinces, but I do remember back in BC, for instance, and this is back in about 1999, 2000. There was a actual office, and I know because I lived in my hometown
for disabilities.
In Langley, in Langley. I grew up.
I don't remember that actually.
In my hometown, and this didn't last long. I think maybe they had it maximum, maybe 2 years maximum.
Oh, wow.
And they had an office just for persons with disabilities. And they had right across the road, they had another office for people on income assistance.
Okay.
So it was actually better because they actually dealt with you, rationalized, no problem. I mean, hi Brent, how are you? Great, good to see you. And then they've merged it. Now you walk in there, you get some of the same ladies. Now I know because I dealt with it. And then I went and I think I was like, I had to, I brought in some medical form because I needed to get a supplement. So I brought in, why can't you pay it off your own income, off your check? Why do you need to submit this in? Well, I said, isn't that funny? And this was only a couple months later. I said, what's ironic is that you had no problem before when you were in that other office. Now you're talking to me this way. Why? What's the change in tone? Like, I don't understand. It's means tested. So you need to now determine, are you eligible for this? I thought, wow, like, don't talk down to me here. Don't talk to me like I'm a child. I said, I have a mother. I don't need another mother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And boy, yeah, the shit hit the fan there. Like I said, don't disrespect the client, right? I mean, I said, I'll talk to you the way you talk to me. She goes, excuse me. So anyway, what the point is that to the person who made that comment, yes, there was a separate office, and then they merged it to cut the costs.
It's funny. I don't remember that, but it is a shame. It is a shame because it just feels like they just throw everybody in the same bucket and say,
yeah,
you're all the same. You're all the same.
Well, yeah, they're all the same. Now they have security in each office.
Yeah.
Like, wow, like a security in a minister's office? Why is that? Well, because people are getting upset. Why are they getting upset? Well, I can tell you is bureaucratic cutbacks. The rates have been pressed down so low, and people are grasping at straws. I was in Shoppers Drug Mart today. I'll give you an example, kind of off topic, but we had to go and they had a coffee on sale. So we went and got this one. It's a PC coffee. It was actually good coffee, good gourmet, medium roast coffee.
Yeah.
So when I say it's on sale, well, geez, I remember years ago when it was on sale. It used to be $3.99 on sale. And the regular price was like $4.99 or $5.99. Now it's on sale for $12.99, Patrick. Wow, that's a sale price.
Bargain.
I mean, yeah, like, hey, this is a bargain. Yeah. So anyway, so I went in and I went to the self-serve kiosk. I don't like self-serve kiosks. I really don't. I like the teller. Go to the teller. Well, people are all lined up, so I guess I'll go there. So Sonia went to one kiosk because she had to go and pick up something else. I think a pair of. What would you? I don't know what she got, but anyway, so I got this coffee. So I went to go and scan it. I'm like, oh, somebody's purchase is still on there. Well, there was a light that was flashing at the top, but the purchase amount still sitting there idle, like it was. Yeah, and so anyway, I know what happened. I know what happened with that transaction. So anyway, I just like, no, go on there, Brent. Nope. Yeah. Go to another kiosk. It's Brent open. It says press start. So scan. Don't forget to scan your PC Optimum Rewards card. Beep. With my phone. Beep.
Yeah.
You know, and then go through the automated Shoppers Drug Mart, right? So and then all these steps, boom, down. Bank card. So anyway. Out I went, and I knew, as Sonia had said, you know what happened, right? On that terminal, somebody just kind of up and went with the items, and that happens a lot. Even a store across the road, I've seen that happen. I actually have to go through and clear the item. No, don't want that. So I just touch screen. No, don't want that item. Not my item. Clear it out. So I had to kind of figure this out on my own. I'm like, oh, okay, computer savvy, okay. But, and the sad part is I hear on our local news, it's happening a lot. And I witnessed a few times, even at the Superstore, and that's out in Langford. That's like an hour bus ride away from here. I've seen people going out with a whole shopping buggy full of groceries out the door.
You know how they have those bins for the food bank at the front of the store for Superstore?
Yeah.
I've seen people going into that and taking food from that.
I have too.
That's how desperate people are now. I've seen that a lot now.
Yeah, I've seen that, and I actually witnessed somebody walking in, and they grabbed a banana off the shelf, and in the store, and they didn't think of it. They just opened it, just chomp, and then they got it and they threw the banana peel back on in there. I'm like, wow, like that's how desperate it is, and that goes to show that the rates across the board, regardless if they're disabled, low income, they're seniors. There's an income inequality across the board, right? And it's sad because I don't condole this, but I see a lot of it, and it's a shame, right? And I wanted your view, Patrick. It kind of blends into another conversation about food banks. Like I know Neil and I we've talked about food banks, and we mentioned about it works good for some people it doesn't. I did a Breaking with Brent segment on that one, but your view on food banks.
Well, from what you were saying just about people munching in the store, I can remember a time when grocery stores used to have little bulk bins that you could take like a scoop full of nuts and a scoop full of this or that spices. And they put on there, please don't sample. But, before that, they used to have a little bin, a little coin box. You could put a quarter in and, try something. And the idea was you just put a dime in and try it, But they've done away with all that. So no wonder people are stealing. There's nowhere to pay, But the other thing is, I think no matter what the income level, yes, you can get desperate and you have to do what you have to do, but there's multimillionaires that enjoy stealing just because they can, you know. And there was actually the wife of Mel Lastman, who was a mayor of Toronto, who she was a multimillionaire and she enjoyed shoplifting just because, you know, like, so criminals will do criminal things no matter what money they get. And you know, it's sad. So, you know, but you know, like stealing a loaf of bread to feed yourself or your family, who cares? But you know, like if you're doing it just for fun, that's where I have a problem.
There used to be a time, Patrick, and you may remember this as well as I do, that in Ontario, as a cashier, we were told that if somebody, and now this is going back to the 90s, if somebody you know, walks into a store and takes a piece of bread and eats it, that we were told by our employers that we're supposed to not see it, because very often, more often than not, that person, well, I mean, the person needs the food, but they could also be a diabetic, right? And by the time somebody's made it through an entire store, they could have a sugar crash, right? And I remember like the shock, because this is going back 20 years ago, so 10 years after that, a family friend of mine was actually charged with shoplifting in a store because they knew that their blood sugar was going to crash. They were intending to pay for the thing, right? Which was the practice, right, in the 90s, is, you know, you write down the price on a card and you actually take that price, you know, you take the ticket to the cashier and pay for it afterwards, right? But that was the way that the system, you know, was, you know, we were told to close our eyes to it, but now it's like, it's just to make it through a store. I mean, in big box stores are big, right?
Yep.
Well, this is. Like, go ahead. Sorry, Patrick.
It's interesting. I mean, there are people with substance problems, right? And they're kind of lumped in with disability community now too. Whether, you know, whatever your opinion is on that, it's neither here nor there. But I know that the Walmart near me now has a beer section, and their biggest problem is not people shoplifting the beer, like taking it out of the store. It's separating one can from a six-pack and drinking it, and then, you know, the six-pack is garbage because you can't sell it anymore. And they're losing millions of dollars in revenue because, you know, people are orphaning the cans. And, you know,
wow,
it's a big problem. Like, since, you know, beer is available everywhere and wine and stuff, you know, like it's become problematic for the stores. So they're creeping up prices just to, you know, compensate for that, I guess, and to
tops that cost, because I mean, God forbid, right? I mean, they wouldn't want to lose any more of their billions of dollars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. They got to make their raise.
Let's crack open a cold one, you know.
I've actually seen that before in a store recently too. A lot of orphaned, like you said, like there'll be one item of, say, a 4-pack of yogurt. One of them will be gone, you know.
Yep.
Or I saw whatever. That. Or just
they can't sell that anymore. But I heard that I think it's Metro has introduced a new program called Too Good to Waste, or I think it's Too Good to Waste, or something like to that effect. And anyways, stuff that's about to expire, they'll actually sell you for really cheap. Yeah. And they've got a website for it. I forget what it's called, but yeah, Too Good to Go, or I think it's Too Good to Go. But basically, you know how they used to have reduced shelves that you'd buy stuff from.
Reduce and clear, yeah.
They kind of done away with that in a lot of stores, but this is like bakery items and sometimes meats and things like that. You can go online, say, you know, and reserve it, and then go and pick it up.
Well, I know that Bread Garden does like day old bread. They'll give to food banks and stuff like that, which is good. Yeah. Here
we actually, it used to be common practice for the Tim Hortons to donate all the day old stuff, like at the end of the day. But, you know, somebody complained about it being, I forget what it was, but they complained about getting stale stuff. So they said, well, F you, and you're not getting anything now. And, you know, so they stopped.
I remember those
But
days.
local bakeries like Cobb's Bread, for example,
Yeah.
is still donating their day olds, right? In contrast,
Here in Barrie, I've used the food bank a couple of times. It's a really good operation. Very, like, I might have had one dented can in the whole time I've used it. Which is a good contrast to some other places where you get rusty and dented, which can be like botulism, right?
Right.
But they actually have fresh produce. They've got like a lot of frozen meat, like sausages, or I actually had a rack of lamb come from there that was frozen from Costco. So they get stuff from everywhere, and it's it may be frozen and it's past due, but it was frozen before it expired, right? And so the stuff's pretty good. You get a lot of things from a local bakery called Fox's that they donate their day olds, and they're still good when we get them, so it's no big deal. And it inspires me when I see which companies have donated to want to patron, deal with them when my situation changes. And I just have more respect for companies that do that instead of just tossing it in the bin,
Yeah. Well, because it can go and help so many people, right? I mean, it's rather than the best before dates now. There's a lot of items that have a best before date, and they're still good past that best before date. It just doesn't mean it expires on that date. Now, there are some questionable items that, yes, when they say that it's getting close, like milk, for instance. Yeah, I mean, it give or take a little bit of time. Yogurt, it can last probably a good week and a half, 2 weeks past its time. Now, you stir it up. I mean, my mom used to do it. I'm like, oh, I can't eat that. She goes, oh, if you get a tummy ache, then that it's probably not so good. I'm like, oh no. So yeah, Sonia talks about that quite a bit about yogurt. Oh, I can't eat that. I go, it's fine.
A couple
of days, her mother goes, oh no, Sonia.
I would use food banks if it was more convenient, but it's just not convenient to hop on a bus and grab a bunch of bags.
It's just accessible.
Here it's the same thing. I have to get a ride to do it, or take an Uber, because they give you 7 bags at a time, which is it's a good haul for a single person.
Yeah.
But like carrying all that would be impossible. So they even say on the website, if you're mobility impaired, they'll actually deliver, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
That's handy.
It's a really
good.
well.
That's good.
I think they're funded through Rotary Club or something. Like there's some good local businesses that have really stepped up, and it's a good organization.
And the Lions Club as well in York Simcoe.
Okay.
And I know in York region that if it is a need to get food banks to deliver, there's different organizations that will also step in and do that delivery if the food bank isn't actually providing it. We have a question from Canuck.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Patrick, for you is, do you believe the Ontario government's plan that food banks are the solution to food insecurity?
That's a good question.
I'm not familiar with the plan entirely. I got to be honest. I kind of been out of the loop for a little while, taking a social media break. You know what I mean? But the idea that we should all just rely on food banks it's unfortunate, but I think if they're well funded and it is an accessible thing, they should all be uniform, really. I mean, it shouldn't, in my mind, vary between community. Like here in Barrie, we've got an excellent food bank, but there's places in the province, I know Wasaga Beach, for instance, which isn't far, rusty cans is what you'll get.
Right.
And in smaller communities, they just don't have the funding. So if food banks were supported well enough that they could have things, and if the law was changed, I think it's federal, if it was somehow changed that companies that donate to food banks could get tax receipts for their income tax, that would be a lot better. Because right now, our food bank does not issue receipts to the companies that donate. So, there's no incentive other than doing the right thing, which, unfortunately not everybody wants to do the right thing. It's got to be a financial, thing. So I don't know. I do think though that we need the food banks, unfortunately, but everybody needs to have equal access, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's independent food banks that they want to do good for the community. They don't want to make a huge profit, right? They're just there to deliver the food to people, right? Then there's big corporations who are in it to make the money. Now, that's kind of where I see it is, well, no, they shouldn't have big corporations, but they need to have smaller ones, like you mentioned, Patrick, is a good thing. Like to the person who had the question, I have no problem with smaller companies that are just want to provide. They want to do the good thing to get it out to people and to help people because of the income inequality that the government has a legal responsibility to take care of its citizens across the country, but because they choose not to, right? And it's choices, right? So they choose not to take care of its citizens. So now people have to now donate to food banks to help the people. Now, getting the right food and nutrients is so important. So if small businesses like small food banks can provide like fresh salads, vegetables, canned goods that's not rusted to hell, you'll put up and what is this, right? I mean, there needs to be a standard. So absolutely, that's my view too. And I know I got into a big debate on social media with an individual, right? Oh, food banks, you have to have food banks there. Well, yes and no. Yeah. Well, and that's my view. Like I think that person understands what I mean is like, I don't have a problem with food banks. If exactly what you mentioned, Patrick, if there's a standard met and that there's a uniform agreement with all of them.
Easy to access, yeah.
Yeah, easy access, and that if people can't get to it, yes, absolutely. If it can be delivered to your door, for sure. Like for here, I mean, our food bank is not accessible. There's a few of them around. It's kind of questionable. I'd rather have it delivered here because of there's some unforeseen situations that have been happening at our food banks. So yeah, it's unfortunate that gets into a different discussion altogether because of a homeless issue that's happening in Victoria. Now, when they're homeless, it becomes a whole different ball game, right? Everyone has their stories of why they're homeless.
Yep.
Right?
I was just gonna. Can I jump in, Brent? Just before you go there, because I just kind of wanted to change gears, but it's kind of related. That's why I didn't want to.
Oh yeah.
I didn't want to leave this idea. Patrick, a little while ago, you made a comment. It was kind of a passing comment. You said that government kind of treats drug addictions and people with disability kind of we're sometimes lumped into the same, right? And the comment that I wanted to make, and Brent, you remember this because it was only a couple of days ago, where our Minister of Social Development, remember she was mentioning the drug supply and she used the word stigma. No, she said the word stigma like 5 or 6 times in one speech. 5 or 6 times, like, we have to remove the stigma. We have to remove the stigma of the drug supply. We have to remove the stigma of the drug supply. Right. We have to remove the stigma of the drug supply. And my point of repeating this is because she repeated it, and it's funny to me that, or it's not funny, it's tragic that the provincial governments don't make the connection of they'll just say stigma of drug supply, but they won't make the distinction of stigma and disability, because stigma and disability is huge. I mean, we have people in legislated poverty in the province of BC and all across Canada because stigma is allowed if you have a disability. Like according to government practice, of what they're doing now with legislating poverty, stigma is alive and well and allowed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just funny to have our minister say, "Oh, stigma is bad. Stigma is bad for the drug supply. Stigma is bad for the drug supply." You don't.
But where is the outrage about stigma against people with disabilities?
Yeah,
yeah.
You never hear them. You never hear them say stigma about disability. Ever.
In fairness, I've been through the mental health system for a long time here in Ontario, and locally in Barrie and Simcoe County, CMHA now says their main goal is to deal with addictions. So there's nothing really offered for schizophrenics or people with mood disorders or depression. It's all geared towards substance abuse, which is unfortunate for those of us who have the chemical imbalance or whatever.
And this is CMHA, right? Which is a Canadian Mental Health Association.
Yeah, they've changed their focus locally to, we focus on a substance problem. So, which I do understand from a perspective that there are a lot of comorbid diagnoses, like people who have substance and mental illness. That's normal. That happens a lot. Because some people use substance to deal with mental health problems, and like that's been going on forever, and it's unfortunate, but like they shouldn't always be lumped together. Is my point.
It just bugged me.
And in contrast, in Ontario, we do have organizations that actually were established with the goal of looking at addictions and substance abuse, right, which were not CMHA, because CMHA, Canadian Mental Health Association, versus a group, say, like Craftsman, which operates in both York Simcoe and in York Region, which they are, they do assist with other things as well, but primarily, they do have specialists for mental health and addiction services.
It just bugged me, though, because here we have this new social services minister, and like I said, she's saying stigma is bad, stigma, and she literally said it, right, like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah,
and
that's
yet,
right.
And yet, in the same speech, here she's handing out, what was that, 33% raise on the shelter allowance. So now it's $500 a month. And
as of July.
And isn't this wonderful? Well, that's stigma right there again, because you're just almost insulting people, saying, well, here's $125 to pay for your rent, which is astronomical right now, and it just seems like they'll say stigma within one breath and then stomp on it in the other breath. You know what I mean?
Well, I can see the.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I can see the goal of BC. Like with the new rule that you can carry 2.5 grams of basically anything, and not get charged. They're trying to reduce deaths, I think, is what the goal is, because the fentanyl overdoses are it's atrocious how much it's happening. And my experience here in Ontario, I used to run a store in a downtown area. It was a family business, and we would have people that we sold cell phones, so we'd have all walks of life that would deal with us. And the number of people that became addicted to heroin and harder through medical means was atrocious. Like back early 2000s, oxycodone, and that was being prescribed left, right, and center. There was a lot of people on Percocet and Oxy, and when those prescriptions stopped being written, those patients turned to the next best thing, which was what they could buy from whoever. And we noticed that there were a lot of people that started their journey down that path through a few painkillers from the doctor, and it was just sad how often that happened.
It is. It's really, really sad, because like the same in BC, the same minister that Neil had referenced. Yeah, no problem. so Neil had referenced this other minister. Well, so she's the minister of they call it social development and poverty reduction. Beforehand, there was a new ministry that was created. It was a ministry called Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions. So that same minister was actually, that was what her job was, and the stigma, and she used it in that ministry, but now she's now talking it under recently under the same one. So the narrative, it's kind of like saying, well, stay in your lane. Like this is and yes, like in fair, to be fair to her, yes, like there is a connection, but it's like where's the stigma in not raising rates to the above the poverty or at the poverty level? And it's like saying, well, this is all because it's all mental health. It's like using that as a parallel. Like it's a slippery slope. I think that's why a lot of advocates say they start looking at going, whoa, like what are you doing here? And maybe maybe it's just a talking point that some of them don't even think about, thinking, oh, did I say that? Or I mean, or maybe yes, they believe in that, but at the same time, they got to be so careful, because it's like saying, well, this is how it is, but at the same time, is it connected directly? No. There's like, the person has a disability now. Was it a result of income inequality? Is it a result of, like, maybe they have mental health? Well, okay, now they have a separate ministry, they can deal with that separately. But it's what I mean, like it's a tough one. But
combining those together it's compounding the stigmas that both groups have, right? Because a person that is legislated into poverty, there is a stigma in the community, right? When those people go to grocery shop, those people are, it is more evident when somebody is shopping for budget items, and that's where the stigma is, right? So when we have ministers, it doesn't matter which province, because this happens countrywide, right? Is that when ministers are talking about them combined, right? Obviously, we know that, people of all sorts could also have addiction that they're working through, right? But when they're combined, when now we're hearing, right, through our shared stories that we're seeing in our communities, that they're being combined and the messaging is being lumped together. Well, that's just compounding the stigma for both groups. It is harmful.
It makes it so much worse, right? Because when, it's like if somebody's coping with something, then combining it all, it just really, it pushes the whole situation, makes it worse. Now, Neil had referenced, like, they're going to be giving we had our BC budget just the other day. Now they're going to give a 33% increase to they call shelter portion. Now in Ontario they have the same, like the shelter portion. There's not too many provinces. I think it's BC and Ontario that have it in.
And PEI.
And PEI, Now
I think our shelter allowance is $497.
Yeah, and so now
yours is $3 less than ours right now.
Well, okay, so technically there's a 5% bump on that, but remember that the ODSP fictitious increase was not applied universally to every ODSP.
Yeah, that's right.
So 497 was the old number. It's technically 500 and something, but that's just paper.
Everybody got that 5% increase either, and like I see a lot of advocates, they're shouting out saying, well, they live in subsidized housing, they don't get this 125 increase, so is this going to make us pay more? And what they did, they bungled it up, right? They had the opportunity of raising it up a lot higher. Even Sonia's mother says living. But here's the thing, you guys. I was talking to my manager, and I live in a REIT, right? I live in a real estate investment trust, sector of it, in the market. I call it market sector. Some people say, and I explained this the other day too, where some people live in subsidized housing, some of them live in market housing. Now, but within the market and the subsidized housing, there's public and private, and the other sector, public and private. So it's confusing, but one of the local MLAs explained this to me. They said, he goes, I'm confused and I'm an MLA, but so I'm just going to make it simple. Simple terms is subsidized and private. Okay, so what they could have done, the opportunity was there in the budget. They have an $80 billion budget, provincial budget, for all their expenses. And what they're doing is that they're going to give it to income assistance and people on disability, a 33% increase on top of their current 375 shelter. So now it's going to push it up, but you don't get that until July. So the people in subsidized housing saying, well, we're not going to get it. So I talked to my manager just recently, and she's like, is that all you're going to get? Really? Well, I mean, so is that can you find a place to rent for $500 in market rent? I go, no, unless you want to rent me a place. She goes, no, the going price is $1,700. You know that. I'm like, well, but you're a stakeholder. She said, well, we want our investment returns, but we also want to make sure the tenant is happy that they can pay the rent. So here's the thing, right? It's like they bite the hand that feeds them. And I think that it was a missed opportunity. And I said to her, I mentioned Ontario. I said, in Ontario, I think the rents are high there too. She says, I know. I said, their premier could have done the same thing, but he gave a 5% increase, but it didn't go to everybody. She goes, I know. I have relatives out there, so I know what's going on in their system. And she said, all the premiers across the country need to get with the program, raise the rates above at the par. And I said, well, they're working on a Canada disability benefit. So here's the update on that one, Patrick. So I had a previous minister that I had on before on my show, and I had him come back on just recently, Mike Maurice, and it was awesome having him on. And so we were talking about, I'll just give you the update. So we were talking about what's happening with it. So I'm not sure if you were following that, but it's now in Senate. The bill is in Senate. It's at stage 2, second reading. It has to go through another committee stage. Then it goes up to royal assent. Once it gets through, they're debating it, figuring out, okay, where is it at? There's no content in it right now. Like it's empty. It's like my pot of spaghetti episode that I talk about. Yeah, boil the water, but there's no content in it. So, yeah. So once it gets to the royal assent, now this is the news that I had heard from Mike and Mike Maurice from Kitchener, Ontario. He had given me the update. He said so that, and I'll mention it to you too, is so once it gets through royal assent, they meaning the federal government has been given 1 year to get their act together. I know what he wanted to say, but he couldn't say it. In other words, get your shit together, get all the components, everything inside that, and let's get it out the door. So they got 1 year after royal assent. So that tells me, well, how long are they going to keep this into the second reading, and it has to go through committee and after royal assent. So we're looking at it could be anywhere at the end of this year where they could say, okay, well, yeah, we got to royal assent. Now they got 1 year from that point on. So that could be the end of 2024. See that magic number, and I hear that in BC all the time. 2024. Well, what's so important about 2024? So that's
you know what I'd like to know. What happens if we have an election called before that, and
all
bills die,
that bill
right?
will go poof. And I was kind of trying to get that out of the minister. I wanted to say it. And I'm glad that you said that to me now, but I so badly wanted to say, and I didn't, because I didn't want to freak anybody out and say, what happens if they call an election? And I know what he wanted to say, and he couldn't. It's like, I'll keep advocating and pushing forward. I think he knows that kind of could be a possibility, that could happen. That I think that's why they want to delay it so that poof,
Are they just
election.
kicking the can down the road?
Maybe it'll
for
turn
the
into
next
another
government?
pink unicorn.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It'll get right into a royal assent. Poof, call election.
Pink unicorn.
You know what? It could be that it's just such an ugly mess that this government doesn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, because no matter what they do, even if they say, the minimum standard is yada yada, and it's
or who
it's
is it
gone
going to
up
go
because
to?
of inflation, it's going to change between now and next year, and it's going to continue changing, and it's going to be that ugly stepchild that they don't want as a bill. And they're going to have they're already having a hard enough time with image and people not really liking Trudeau, but he's better than.
Well, here's another blurb kind of on the same topic. So I was listening on our local radio station today, and they were talking about healthcare transfer funds coming from Ottawa. Trudeau had met up in Langley, BC, just yesterday with our new premier, and he gave us a little speech of like we're here. They're in a hospital setting and giving out an announcement, all this money, and he admits that it's not enough. It's not enough. The premier is like, he wasn't. You could tell he wasn't happy. I mean, all the premiers are going to take the funds because hey, he's going to dole out the goods. Let's take it now. I mean, we better call it before he calls the election, right? Because we better take it. Otherwise, we get. So they talked about this on the radio show this morning, just briefly, where they said all these promises for the transfer fees that the provinces are desperately needing to just to barely maintain their status quo. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to get any better. Like they're hoping that more money will come in. Well, hope is good. Now, here's our local transit has said, which is governance. Go figure. We got a small area outside of our Lower Mainland. It's all operated under the province umbrella of transit, and then we got our governance of the main transit in the Lower Mainland, which is part of government. I don't know why they broke them apart in the first place, because it used to be all government controlled, which it still is transit. But so they said this morning that if they don't get funding by the federal government within 1 year, maximum 2, they're going to have to do major service cuts in the region under the TransLink. Now, BC Transit got no funding in their new budget by the provincial government, 0 funding. So that's going to be a problem. I could see them going on strike eventually because they're going to say, well, hey, but meanwhile, out in the Fraser Valley, they just went on strike. They settled it after 2 days. It caused a major disruption. Well, they quickly settled it, but it was a U.S. company that runs that transit, apparently, contracted out. And I didn't even know that until just recently, that it's actually a U.S. company running their transit system, but it's still government run out in BC, but contracted out, right? A government firm company, but they settled it quickly. So that tells me they can settle things very quickly if they wanted to. So I guess what I'm mentioning is what I'm concerned about, because they said on the radio was they had economists, they had called in and they were talking about this, is that if they have all these problems and they can't get money from the federal government, somebody had referenced, how can they get the Canada Disability Benefit going if they can't even seem to get money from the TransLink to the premiers? Yeah. And get the healthcare funding. Like they were mentioning about in Ontario and across the country, they need all the different infrastructure going. So that tells me again that, I don't want to call the kettle black or say, hey, they're going to call an election. But again, delay, right?
Well, actually, that's always been my number one concern is like, how are the provinces going to play nice with the feds? Like, how is that going to play out? Like, I just don't know. Like, because
on Ontario, Neil, we've seen Doug Ford side by side with Justin Trudeau on television, and
on one hand, out of one breath,
he doesn't look happy when he has to stand there because he's
And then you look at our previous premier there, Neil, too, John Horgan, right? And he was the chair. He was the chair of the federation of all the premiers of Canada. And he invited Justin Trudeau to come out and talk to him. And he got frustrated in the meetings because Trudeau said, well, he'd be willing to meet. And I remember that. I think I had a show. I was saying that one day. Remember, I said all the premiers are out coming out, and guess what? They were coming out to Victoria. And I think I'll do a Breaking with Brent. I think I was joking with that. I said I'll do a Breaking with Brent segment. But of course, all the premiers did come out to BC. But guess who didn't come out with them? Justin Trudeau. He was the only one who did not come out there. So they all made a trip out to Victoria, out to a very expensive hotel. Of course, there's no way I'm going to get there and go, hey, I'm Brent. Yeah, breaking with Brent. They'd be like, who the hell are you? Get out of here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they all enjoyed the ferry ride over, though.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, or they probably would have taken their little plane there.
Well, I mean, if there's not a 400 series highway, I don't know how our premier made it over to Victoria. But
Yeah. They would have just they flew right into our harbor. They have a they come right in there too. And you go right into the airport too, but they got the harbor area too. A lot of them will fly right into Vancouver, and then they just fly right into Victoria too, right to the harbor. But so they had a big meeting there, and it was all about healthcare transfer funds. And they had a meeting, and the agreement was that there had to be a commitment by each premier to determine that there needed to be accountability. Where is the funds going to go? Is it going to go right to healthcare, that was the stipulation. But nothing came out of it. Like it was a joke. Like what a waste of time, right? So I think our premier, I know he got frustrated, obviously, with it. And he was gone, right? But now our new premier, you could tell. I could still see. I could just sense the stress on him.
Yeah.
He's not gonna get what he wants. Who does get what they want from the feds? Yeah. I mean, but when it comes to the Canada Disability Benefit, I'm being cautiously, very, very cautiously optimistic, but yeah, I'm not holding my breath. Like Sonia always says, I'll believe it when it's in my bank account. Until then, you can talk on your show with Brent about it. And I said, well, and I said, yeah, and like I'll talk about it. And sometimes I'll talk about basic income, and I'll say, well, basic income down the road. We'll get that down the road. Yeah, let's get the emergency funds to people, and I will still keep pushing the narrative about DERB, like it's Bertie will correct me on this if I get it wrong.
The Disability Emergency Response Benefit.
Yeah, and I know I said that wrong that one day with the word response. I said recovery benefit, I think. Yeah, and I was like, no, it's response. So I got it right this time. I did. So, and that's so important because I know that premiers across the country can get that going because they need to keep that going until who knows if they get that Canada Disability Benefit going. And it's so important, right? Because we need to make things better for Canadians with disabilities across Canada. Nobody should be suffering in poverty. No, nobody. I mean, food banks,
what it occurs to me is I drove a taxi for a little while, and one of my fares was a regular who was going to rehab because he had a massive car accident. It wasn't his fault, and even if it was, it wouldn't have mattered. But the insurance company was paying for rehabilitation and then for his income for the rest of his life.
Oh, yeah.
And what really sucks for people with disabilities is how you get disabled makes a real difference on what kind of income you're going to have. Because if you're working and you get injured, you're probably going to get 60% of your salary as a disabled person, which is like a huge difference from, our $1,287 a month that we get in Ontario as a single person. Like if you were making $5,000 a month, which is only $60,000 a year, which is, a blue collar type job,
right.
Getting 60% of that is a far cry from what we have to live on, so how you become disabled matters. And it's too bad that there's like different classes of those of us with trouble,
Yeah, and that's how the government piles it in, right? The government will pile in saying, well, okay, these people are employable, these people aren't employable, these people have cognitive disabilities, they have different barriers. And they say, oh, we got this jobs plan. It's all red ribbon stuff, and it's all propaganda stuff. It's just a spin, right?
I hate the term income of last resort.
Yeah,
I hate that term, income of last resort. I hate it.
Well, the federal minister, she just keeps spilling out all this stuff, and is all about the jobs. There's a jobs plan. There's let's just focus. She needs to focus on getting that Canada Disability Benefit going. Like, and it's all
and
spin.
removing that stigma that is
Yes.
placed on people with disabilities.
Yeah, and that wording that they used, it just drives me batty. They call it the working disabled. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know why they came up with that, because there was, I remember when we were doing the Twitter Spaces shows, right? That was the common thing. People kept asking, well, what does it mean, working disabled?
Well, if we look at it statistically, 5% of ODSP recipients are working while on ODSP, and statistically, like across Canada, it is similar. So they're talking about such a small fraction of the population when they talk about the working disabled.
Yep. And that's when I noticed that the narrative that they were using before, that the minister had said, remember, they were going to lift everyone out of poverty. They said over 1 million. Then all of a sudden, it was only hundreds of thousands. And I thought, whoa, like, where are we going with this? And so that right away, you kind of wonder, like, who are they targeting? And of course, they don't have the answers to it. Like the ministers, when I've had on, like they said, well, they don't know. They don't know who it's going to go to, because the feds won't talk about it.
Right, because when you're on sorry.
I was going to say, poof, pink unicorn again. Everything's poof, pink unicorn.
But when you're talking about the working disabled, CPPD is more restrictive than, for example, ODSP.
Yeah.
Right. So the small fraction of those on CPPD is going to be smaller than that 5% on ODSP. Right. And you were sharing earlier, Brent, that clawbacks actually work different in BC than they do, like the clawback that happens when working as a disabled person.
Now, it's so important that people that are tuning in, watching this live, you have to understand, when it comes to clawbacks, when it comes to employment, if it's strictly employment, you are now allowed to make the allowable amount that the province has stated. Okay, but if it's income from other sources, now the government gets really picky. Now, I know Neil talks about this a lot, and and you know what? It's like the government will justify. Oh well, it's. I mean, Neil can probably explain the topic on this for sure. I'm just going to do an overview. Income is income. It should not be clawed back. Like, so if I saw somebody along the road and said, hey, good job on your Breaking with Brent segment, buddy. Here's $50 for you. Thanks a lot. Well, you know what? Technically, I would have to declare that, right? I would have to declare that, because the government says declare any money coming in, income of last resort. Or remember years ago, they would say, Brent, how much change do you have in your pocket? Can you please empty your pockets out?
I hated that thing, yeah.
And
it's $20. It's a $20 limit. The ODSP, to apply for ODSP, you have to have less than $20.
And there's Stigma again.
Yeah, they would say, put the change on my desk here, and I go, oh, okay. So I think I found a dime on my way. Is what? Oh yeah, I found a dime on the sidewalk. Do I need to declare that? She goes, excuse me. I go, you said it has to be declared. Yes, right down to the penny. Oh, okay. Did you make any interest on your account? Let me look here. Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, you made that. Okay. I'm serious. Like, I put the change on there. I said, oh, hang on, I got a hole in my pocket. I think I lost a quarter. Shoot, I had 50. I had 60 cents. I already got 35 cents. Oh.
And those monthly reports, they would say, have you been in prison in the last month, or
have you been incarcerated?
Yeah, incarcerated. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, Stigma again, right?
You have a warrant for your arrest.
Yes.
I mean, really? Like, is that how they treat our people?
Do you really need to ask that question every month of the disabled?
Well, and there is the newest thing in Ontario, Patrick, with the declaration for ODSP clients too, right? That
I heard about
that technically those with access to my benefits have to press a pop-up, but we only have 7 days to do it. It's between the 1st of the month and the 7th of the month.
Yeah, I heard about that, and out here it's that. They encourage people to sign up on their BC benefits. I'm like, well, what is that? Self-serve. They have a self-serve one.
Mhm.
Out here,
We're trying to save postage, is what it is.
yeah. So out here, what they do is that they say, like on their stub, they'll say, if you don't have anything to declare, we don't need you to report.
Mhm.
Like they stopped doing that years ago here. Before it was the same way that Ontario is doing it now. But I think because of the caseload becomes bigger and bigger. I know Jeff recently came with a stat. It was like 107,000. Now it's like 117,000. But here's an interesting stat that he actually just posted out. We had a rally just the other day, Patrick, which was really interesting, online rally. But he came with a new stat today, and I'll retweet it back out and I'll post it out there. But he has a updated stat of the 20. Well, actually, updated, but the numbers in there. It's a chart. So the chart actually indicates of 2021, the LICO formula. That LICO formula is from the federal government. The federal government states that it was at $2,160 a month. That was a base amount that every disabled Canadian needs to have. And that was in 2021. So I'm guessing they haven't come out with 2022 yet for whatever delayed reason. Delayed again, delay. Yep. Now, I'm guessing that's probably another $200 something because that amount would have been like 2020 when we had the beginning of COVID, right?
Yep.
Now they said 2,000 was the base. So that amount there is 21. I don't know why it's only 2160. That doesn't seem right.
Just because I have it in front of me, what Jeff had accurately posted, is that the amount in 2021 was the same amount in 2020, and it was based off of numbers from 2019. They decided to freeze the 2021 amount at the same level as the 2019 amount.
Okay.
So they fudged the numbers.
Yeah, they're fudging with numbers basically, and that's something that Joseph had mentioned before too, and that there was a PBO report, and a lot of the ministers were scrambling around. How did you get that number? I remember that, and they're like, "How did you get that?" He goes, "Well, I mean, how did I get it? How come you don't have it?" And I remember that. It was like, I was thinking, okay, I could see some big fireballs going, alarms going up.
Yeah.
Oh boy. And that was one of the ministers I had as a guest on the show. And then Joseph asked the question, well, how did you get that number? Well, if I can get it, then how come you don't have it? So now they submitted it off to the Senate. I think they're dealing with it in there. So it'll be interesting again. But again, that number, the rates across country should not be any less than that amount. And I think the disabled community, when we had our provincial budget when it came out, and the number was just so appalling. People, I mean, for me, 125. Yeah, it's going to help in the market. We still want to move to the Lower Mainland. Here's the thing, Patrick, is we have a lady that's just down the hall, 2 doors down from here in my building. Her stuff is still in her unit. She hasn't. Well, she's no longer there. I think management wants to make it look like she's still there, but she's not there. So I kind of down the hallway, and I don't hear anything. I can hear the fan still going for over 2 weeks now. They got a fan there. All her belongings are in her unit. She's got a storage locker in the hallway, which we have a storage locker in our unit. We have a walk-in storage room. It's a pretty big room, but in the hallway it's the same size. The door was unlocked in the hallway. Now, of course, I shouldn't. The door was unlocked. Open the door. Oh, door opens in the hallway. Oh, all her stuff is in there. But she has a walking little carriage that she uses and stuff like that. It's missing. So it tells me that she took it with her. She's having an issue with the management company because she doesn't know where she's going to put her stuff. I was told she's going into a home. Now they need to figure out is that I guess she must have had a battle with them going, well, I need my stuff. Now the management comes and says, well, what do we do with it? It's a legality situation because they've never had to deal with it before. Is it going to go to family? Is it going to go to her? Obviously, she can't have it because she's going to be in a home. There's nowhere to put it.
Right.
So she doesn't want to pay for storage. She says, I'm not paying for it. Well, the manager, the main manager here, he says, well, I'm not paying for it. He was telling me. And the owner, he's definitely not paying for it. So do they sell it off? Do they give it away, auction it? So we were offered her unit because we have an idiot who lives upstairs, and we've been trying to get him out. He's been doing some hardcore drugs upstairs, opening and closing his balcony door, stomping around, be a part of the flooring, and doing it deliberately. Now he's got a dog up there. So we were being antagonized into management, trying to get him out, like just throwing little things that we can find that are, as ammunition.
Yeah.
So now they said, well, one more time for him, and he's evicted. And so I saw one of our managers, and I said, well, so this is what's going on. She goes, I gave him a notice. Well, we thought, of course, the word assume, right? Of course, the other main manager had said one more time, and he's evicted. Well, when I ran into the other manager, which we see, she's pretty cool. She says, I gave him a notice. I'm well aware of that unit. Oh, okay, good. So he's going to be gone. Yeah, I gave him a notice. She didn't say, yeah, she said, I gave him a notice. So we're thinking, yay, he's going to be gone. No, not evicted. It was an eviction notice. She gave him another warning notice.
Ah, geez.
Now he's so they're playing cat and mouse game with us, right? But the moral of the story is that he gave his notice in. So we're hoping by the end of this month, in another 29 days, he will be out the door, gone, kapoof.
Do you guys have a landlord-tenant tribunal?
We do. And I said to the one manager, I said, gee, maybe arbitration. We should go to arbitration. Oh no. Like, we're dealing with this. It's like I'm trying to say, like, maybe we should take you to arbitration because you're not getting them out. They kind of freaked. They're like, we can. The main manager said we can offer you the unit down the hall, $1,600. It's going for $1,700. We can give it to you for $1,600 because of the situation upstairs.
It's because we're so kind. We'll give you a discount.
But now the head manager told me, and like the main from head office one day, Sonia said, well, she was having a shower, and she said, well, let me know how the weather is out there, and then she wanted to go for a walk later, right? That one day. So I went around the block. It was a really nice neighborhood, quiet neighborhood. So I come back, and I see a manager. I see her van, doors kind of open, partly open, and I'm thinking, well, that's not safe. And I recognize the van. I'm thinking, why is she leaving her door open? Where is she? I don't see her anywhere. I'm thinking, oh shit, maybe I better close it. I thought, no, Brent, leave it alone. It's none of your business. So I walk around in front of the van, and I see another van parked there. And I'm just about to go into, we have a door, it's a laundry room, and we live right above the laundry room. Go figure, right? So anyway, every time we hear the laundry room door close, it goes like that.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how loud it is up here. It echoes, right? So anyway, I'm just about to go in the door. Here's Brent. I'm like, what? And I turn around, and the manager's there. She goes, hey. I go, hey, how's it going? She goes, good. And the other manager's in the van sitting, so that she was talking to her, just standing there. And she goes, I got some good news for you. I go, what? This is a wonderful, exciting news. She says, and this is coming from the manager. She goes, asshole. She goes, asshole's moving. I said, oh, I'm glad that you said it because you took the word out of my mind. I said,
yeah.
I said, I can say it. She goes, you can say it, asshole. I go, good, asshole's moving. Yay. I said, did you crack open some wine or have a beer or something? She goes, we'll have a toast. We'll have a party when he's gone. I'm thinking, oh, good, it's on you? Good. I said, the party's on you. That's good. You guys are buying the wine or beer or whatever.
Right on.
But anyway, it was all happy. It's like now we're saying, good, we can quiet you guys down now. You can stop complaining. So I said, well, Sonia's still thinking maybe we take that unit down the hall for $1,600. She goes, oh, I just hang on there. I think it's because of the unit upstairs. The unit upstairs. Because, and I said, well, no. I said, he knew that there was other issues that we're having to deal with. Okay, well, that's between you and him then. If he's willing to give it to you for that price, but she says, we were told that it was the main thing was for upstairs, but if he's willing to do that, then that's up to him. And it's just, but keep in mind, her stuff is still there. I'm like, and she admitted to me, like, her stuff is still there. I'm like, and so, and then once her stuff gets out of there, we now have to paint it. they made it sound they were going to fully renovate it, Patrick. But what they're going to do is paint it over. They said, the cabinets are fine, the flooring's fine. Just a fresh coat of paint, make it all nice and good. I said, so Sonia says, what kind of bathtub? What kind of bathtub is it? Okay, yellow. Oh, she said, hey, don't worry, it's the same color as yours. Yellow. But hey, you get it for $1,600. Yeah, you get to pay more money. So we look at it as, that was before the budget came out. Like we had thought about this. Well, what is it going to come out in the budget, in the provincial budget, before we make a decision what we're going to do? And I'm looking at the situation. Her stuff, it could be a couple months, could be 3 months before they get her stuff out. Like, it's going to be a long process. They got the fan still running there, so that tells me there's an issue going on in her unit. If they've been running over 2 weeks now, it's been nonstop. 2 weeks in one day.
Well, that sounds like they're trying to deal with a mold issue.
Because they couldn't open like that much too, eh? I went on the outside.
Moisture, mold. I have an uncle who was a firefighter, and he said one of the worst smells he ever dealt with was someone who'd been dead in their apartment for like 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
You could smell it approaching the door.
Because I can smell something. So I'm thinking that she didn't go to a home.
Maybe she's dead. Not
I think
to be
so.
nasty.
Yeah.
But people who die and they're not discovered in time, that it's sad. But older people that pass and there's no family, it's a smell you don't forget, right?
I went to go and view a place out in Chilliwack, BC. This is before we even moved to Victoria. Hey, son, you remember that place we went to in Chilliwack?
What?
That place we went to in Chilliwack, remember?
What place?
Remember the smell?
Oh, yeah, that.
Oh, yeah, exactly what you mentioned, Patrick. The smell.
Bad.
She said, well, I'll show you this unit. And it was bad. And of course, that was in COVID times. We had to wear a mask, right?
Yeah.
Well, I had this mask on. So now when you're wearing a mask, guess what? The smells are now going to get trapped right inside. So it was even worse.
Yeah.
I had to hold my breath, you guys. I had to hold my breath because there was a smell. It triggered my nose and I felt like I was going to sneeze. I was actually, my throat was tightening up. It was like something was off, and I'm looking there was something off about this unit. It's all closed up, all really weird, like curtains. It was just, and I was like,
there was an interesting statistic that came out of COVID times that that up to 10% of people in Toronto were completely like just individuals that didn't have family. Right. And looking at COVID, what happened during COVID and, the amount of people that passed away, it's a reality that landlords do have that situation.
Yeah. They were going to give it to us for $900 for the place and 2-bedroom, $900. I mean, wow.
It was a 1-bedroom.
And, I'm looking at this and I'm going, ooh, and she's like, well, what, why are you hesitating? And then, and of course she'd say to Sonia, like, why are you hesitating? I mean, I can get this going right away. I need time to think. I said, we need time to talk about it. We're just coming to look at this place. Mm-hmm. And Sonia kind of whispered, and she didn't hear it. She goes, get me the hell out of here. Get me. And I looked at her too. Like, you know what? I'll get back to you. Okay, well, 1 or 2 days. So, I didn't get back to her. Yeah.
Wow. Brent, we're getting close to the top of the hour. So just before we get to the top of the hour, though, I did want to turn it back over to Patrick and ask, for people that don't know, you used to be fairly active on Twitter as Nobody Laugh, and you've since migrated over to TikTok. And so I wanted to know what your ongoing advocacy is going like on TikTok and why you made this shift from Twitter to TikTok.
Honestly, I didn't like the way that the platform was going since Musk took over. Mm-hmm. Like allowing Trump back on, not that he's going to use it because he's got his own platform, but I remember what it was like before he got banned, and they started doing more more community standards and things like that. It was kind of a nasty place. It was but I've been a member of Twitter since 2007, so like
Yeah, you've seen a lot.
yeah, yeah, and Musk, I don't know. I'll probably come back to it eventually, but Musk just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and the firing so many of the staff, like that was terrible. What is it, like 80% of the staff is gone? Like it's
And there was
terrible.
just another round of firings recently too.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh! Like the accessibility department too. They were working on a software platform to work for iPads for all other devices, and common complaint I kept getting, Patrick, on my shows was, Brent, I can't connect to this, I can't connect to that, and guests would say, I can't get on, and I said, well, I'm trying to work with Twitter support here, and then next thing you know it, guess what? Musk comes along, buys it, fires them.
Yep.
And I'm thinking the same people that I was in communication with
Yep.
to help develop it. And I said, you know what? Like, and then same thing, like it became a gong show. Like, yeah, I mean, you made the right step for you. Like it was good for
Well,
you.
You know what though? I gotta say, as far as nastiness goes, TikTok's not much better.
No, yeah,
like I posted some stuff about what it's like, and during the election, like before Ontario's election last year, and just saying, look, here's what this party's offering, and the NDP's offering like a 20%, or no, well, they were going to double the ODSP rate, which would have been
double, yeah.
fabulous. Like that would have been excellent. And then the Liberals were like 20%, and then eventually double or whatever. So I was just explaining, and like this would change our lives, like, and
Yeah.
so many people were like, just get a job, and
Oh, I
like,
know.
just the nastiness and
It's foul. It's really rancid.
there's pricks everywhere, like it doesn't matter. And I gotta say, there was a time that I might have thought that way too. I've always been disabled, but I always thought, if you try hard enough, you can change your situation. I believe the old pick yourself up by the bootstraps thing, but
Yeah.
sometimes you get kicked really hard, and it's you're down for the count. You need help, like, so I don't know.
Every situation is different, right? And yeah, exactly.